For Elliot Anderson, what should we be thinking about or looking toward with any possible January transfer interest in him?
There'll be enormous interest in Elliot Anderson, Paul, but it's not going to happen in January. That's for a number of reasons. First and foremost, Nottingham Forest don't want to do anything at this point in time. They've got him under contract until 2029. The player is not agitating to move right now, to my knowledge. And furthermore, the fee that they're going to command is going to be in the region of 80, 100 million pounds, the way things are looking. And I don't think that's very realistic from a PSR perspective, profitability and sustainability, the financial rules that govern the Premier League, even for the biggest clubs. But also in terms of squad and salary space, they would have to get rid of some pretty significant players if they were going to free space up for somebody like Elliot Anderson. And that's why I think the winter is not going to be a time for Anderson to move. However, the summer could be a completely different story. There is no release clause in his contract, but I do think that Nottingham Forest know that if the right price comes in, they might have to do business. And they will understand that pretty much every player has their price. I don't think we're going to have a repeat of, say, the Morgan Gibbs-White situation should suitable offers arrive. But still, it's not going to be easy because of that transfer fee, because of the salary he's already on, in excess of £100,000 a week, which is quite unusual when you move from, say, Nottingham Forest to one of the even higher clubs. Declan Rice, when he was at West Ham, was on a much lower salary when he moved to Arsenal. What about the interested clubs? Well, it's going to be the biggest clubs in the Premier League and Europe. So we're talking the likes of Manchester City, Manchester United, Bayern Munich, Chelsea. Plenty of others will be in the frame as well. I think some of them are already calling Nottingham Forest. Manchester United have made their interest known. I think he's top of their list or thereabouts for a number 6 come the summer. Arsenal are pretty much the only team in that bracket who have a full midfield, so I wouldn't expect them to figure. And his former club Newcastle, as much as they would love to do it, I think he's probably going to be out of reach financially. A lot will depend on managers, with some uncertainty over the bosses at the clubs that I've mentioned so far. And a player like Anderson will want a bit of certainty around that. So that makes the next 6 months crucial. But the World Cup next summer, I don't think that will affect where he goes. I think the clubs are already convinced on him. If he has a good World Cup, even better for everybody. But I'm not sure that will have a bearing on his destination. It's going to be a big one for the summer.
Just opening that gap to 10 points on West Ham and putting 5 between themselves and Nottingham Forest, 4 clear of Leeds United, who I think a lot of the teams are worried about down there. But what's interesting, yes, it is a very busy Christmas period, but this next game for Fulham feels, Jamie, absolutely huge. But 13 points potentially between the two sides, them and West Ham.
It's big for Fulham, but it's absolutely huge for West Ham. Almost feels like a cup final. If Fulham won that, you do the math.
Well, they're 13 points clear of them. But that might mean Fulham home and hose, wouldn't it? 13 points at that stage?
Well, that is a huge gap. I know there's a long way to go, but, you know, the way Leeds are playing right now, Fulham, I think West Ham, and Nuno's been in there now for a little bit of time, and I thought they'd sort of kick on a little bit the way Forest have, and it hasn't quite happened, and that gap is getting too big for comfort, and I think there'll be a real worry at West Ham right now. And I know they'll look to do business in the January, but before they get to that January transfer window, they've got to cut that gap somehow.
Yeah, of course there are other teams that West Ham can target along the way as well.
I expect Arsenal to win the league. I think they've got the best team, I think they've got the best squad. But I think if you're a Manchester City fan, and what you've seen over the last few years and what they've done sort of catching them, I think they'll all be rubbing their hands with glee about how tight it is with Arsenal now. And Arsenal have still got to go to Manchester City in the second half of the season.
2.83 goals per game actually represents the 4th highest in any season. I think the previous 3 seasons are 1, 2 and 3.
And people say the Premier League's boring, needs to go back to the 90s. Unbelievable.
But we are seeing more set pieces, Jamie. The 2nd highest in any season. 29% of goals have come from set pieces. We've got a top 3 that have all got 36 points or more. And that's the 8th time that's happened at this stage of any season. And 9 goals between Fulham and Man City a couple of weeks ago was the joint highest scoring match since 2013. Haaland leading the way on 19 goals, the 3rd most at this stage in any season. 57 points already amassed between the 3 promoted sides, the most combined at this stage for 10 years. And leading the way of them, Sunderland with 27 points, the most by a promoted team since that same season, 2015-16, and poor old Wolves, just 2 points so far, the joint fewest by any team at this stage. So I think this is arguably the story of the season, isn't it, Jamie? What's going on here that is just sort of sent a bit of a shockwave, certainly through a lot of clubs down that bottom end?
Yeah, but it's just brilliant for the league. It's brilliant for those clubs. You know, we were getting to the stage where promoted clubs almost didn't want to get promoted. It was like, I'd rather be in the Championship, winning every
inevitable
week. Yeah, and it was like, I'm watching my team get beat every week. And I just think what Sunderland have done especially, and what Leeds have done of late, has been absolutely fantastic. And it was getting a little bit too comfortable for a lot of teams in the Premier League. So they've had a little bit of a rocket up the backside, shall we say.
So there's only one in the relegation zone right now, that is Burnley. But we'll see how many finish there at the end of this season. Remember, only 17 games in.